Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Ahl Bayt al-Tayyibin al-Tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The biggest misunderstanding or misunderstood event that took place in Islam, without doubt, is that of Ghadir. Ghadir is something that the Shia don't even know what it is, let alone the Sunni, let alone the Christians or the Jews or anyone else for that matter. What is Ghadir? What happened? What was said? What took place? Is somewhat of a mystery to even us Shias. Now, is mystery the right word? Mystery is something that we have no knowledge of, that we don't know fully what happened. No, it's not the right word. What has happened to Ghadir is down to us Shia being heedless of the events. It's down to us Shia and the Muslims present at that time not listening to the full advice of the Prophet. You see, just as everything is recorded in history, alhamdulillah, we have recordings of what happened in Ghadir, both in Shia and Sunni books. So inshallah, we will spend a couple of lectures looking into what exactly took place, what was said, and what can we derive from this? What's the conclusion of this meeting that happened at Ghadir? Was it even a meeting? Was it just something that was said as they were passing? Inshallah, we will see all this. Now, the first thing that would be right to do would be to take a look at the events and just state the facts. Now, we're not bringing into here what I feel happened, what X, Y, or Z feel happened. No, we will just state fact, what really did happen. And from that then, you can make your own decision, your own mind up. Eid al-Ghadir is celebrated by Shia Muslims on the 18th of Dhul Hajj. Does that mean that that was the only day that is regarded as Eid al-Ghadir? No. History has it that Eid al-Ghadir was for a period of 3 days. That was the 18th, the 19th and the 20th of Dhul Hajj. Now, after Hajjat al-Wada, which is the last Hajj that the Prophet had gone with the people, he'd taken them all to Hajj and he was returning back to Medina from Mecca, and roughly halfway between Medina and Mecca is where the place of Ghadir is situated, Ghadir Khum, where there is some say a pond, but a very large pond of water, and it was in a way in the middle of the desert. Now, the Prophet stopped there for a reason. The reason wasn't because he was tired, because he felt like going on a camp with some people. No. As we know, the Prophet didn't do a single thing without Allah having told him to do that. He doesn't speak from desire. He doesn't act from desire. He doesn't do anything from desire. Now, Jibreel came to the Prophet and revealed a verse to him. The verse of Surah Ma'idah, number 67. That's chapter 5, verse 67. It says in the Arabic language, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الرسول بلغ ما أنزل إليك من ربك وإن لم تفعل فما بلغت رسالته. It then goes on to say, والله يعصمك من الناس إن الله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. This is a very big verse. It's not something that that we can say is normal for Allah to speak in this way. If we look at the English, it translates to this. O Apostle, Ya ayyuhar Rasul, O Apostle, Balagh ma unzila alayka min rabbik. Announce all that has been bestowed from on high upon you. In other words, give the message to the people from your Lord. And then Allah goes on to say, and if you do not, then it would be as if you have not told them the message at all. That you have not completed the message. That you've done nothing, in other words. That the message is incomplete. He then goes on to say that Allah will surely safeguard you or keep you safe from the people. And Allah does not guide, or Allah does not love. Guide would be a better word. Allah does not guide the dhalimeen, those who oppress or wrongdoers. Now, this is a very big verse, as I mentioned. Allah here is not just telling the Prophet, here's another message, tell the people what I just told you. No. Allah here is almost threatening the Prophet. Not almost, he is threatening the Prophet here. Is that Allah's character to be threatening towards his messenger, towards his creation? Of course not. So we have to look at this ayah and say, there is more behind this. There is a bigger meaning than just give this message. Allah here is saying that if you do not give this message, it would be as if you have not completed the message at all. In other words, 23 years of the Prophet's guidance means 0. In other words, all that pain and oppressiveness that he took, the oppression from the people of Mecca, the Quraysh, the tribes, Abu Sufyan, Abu Lahab, Abu Jahl, all the rest of them, would mean 0. In other words, all those battles, the jihad, the people, the martyrs that died, Uhud, Hunayn, Badr, so on and so forth, would mean nothing. In other words, all that prayer, all that fasting, all that zakat and helping the people would mean nothing. Are we understanding what kind of a message this is? Are we seeing that this message that the Prophet is about to announce has more weight in the scale in the eyes of Allah than 23 years of the Prophet's work? If you don't do this, it's as if you didn't do anything at all. Wow. Now let's just look at this for a second. Is Allah somebody who is unjust like me? To, for instance, go up to my best friend, who's been my friend for the last 4 or 5 years, and say to him, look, you've done everything for me over this last 4 or 5 years. You've been a very good friend to me. Everything I've asked for, you've done. But if you don't do this one thing, then everything I'll forget. I'll forget that you ever helped me. I'll forget that you ever came to my house and helped me decorate and so on and so forth. I'll forget that you ever took me to the hospital when no one was around and I was severely ill. I'll forget it all. Because of this one thing, if you don't do this. Now you'll turn to me and say, Amen. How unjust are you that you're willing to give up this 4 or 5 years of friendship just because of one thing, one favour? No. You see, this isn't me. This is Allah. So when Allah says that He's willing to give up 23 years of hard work, sweat, blood, tears of the Prophet, then it must mean something. It must mean something very big. Not just as the Sunni like to say. Now when I say Sunni, don't take me wrong. Don't think that I mean all the Sunnis. No. By Allah, a lot of the Sunnis, the majority of them don't know these. They don't know this information. And it's down to their alims, down to their scholars, because their scholar will never come out and say this. Because he's afraid that they may turn to become Shia. That they may have love for Ali in their heart. And this is dangerous for the Sunni. When I say Sunni, I mean the alims, the people that have read the books and know what happened, but yet decide to hide it out of fear. Now they don't know this. We don't even know this. Us Shia don't even know this. And we expect the Sunnis to know this? We expect our Sunni brothers who don't read our books, don't even read their own books. Let's face the facts. Let's not beat around the bush. We Shia don't even read our own books, and we expect the Sunnis to read our books, or even their books. Now, the khutbah of Ghadir is something very big. It's not a 2-minute speech, it's not a 1-minute speech, it's not something like where the Prophet, as the Sunni like to say, where the Prophet stood there and said, by the way everybody, Man kuntu mawla, fahada aliyun mawla, which they like to translate the word mawla as friend. By the way everyone, imagine the Prophet standing there with 120,000 people to say, by the way everyone, whoever I'm his friend, Man kuntu mawla, whoever I'm his friend, fahada aliyun mawla. Ali, this Ali is also his friend. Please, who are we trying to fool here? Whose eyes are we trying to cover? Now, if we were saying that the Prophet stood there for a period of 2-3 minutes and he said this, then we'd say, okay, fine, maybe this translation is acceptable. The Sunni are right. He just stood there for 2 or 3 minutes to say, by the way, everyone, whoever I'm his friend, Ali is also his friend. Yeah? Okay, thank you. Now, that's not what happened. It wasn't 2 or 3 minutes. The Prophet stopped everyone midway through the journey back to Medina. Now, as they were travelling 120,000 people, you don't expect them to be marching army style, one behind the other. You had old people, young people, you had families, tribes. Some people would travel a bit slower than others. Some would be up ahead than the majority of the group. So the Prophet stopped everyone when Jibreel came down and told him this verse, to reveal to the people, to announce to the people that which Allah has told you to announce. And if you do not, then it would be as if you never announced anything. So the Prophet stopped everyone and he said, set up camp. He then ordered for a messenger to dash off to the front where the people who had been travelling a bit faster had gone up ahead, to stop them and say, come back. The Prophet has to announce something. He then sent a messenger to the people behind to say, catch up, because people are waiting. The Prophet has to announce something. Now, before we carry on again, there's another point here. That why would the Prophet stop and call everyone back and call everyone to catch up for this one line, by the way everyone, whoever I'm his friend, Ali's his friend? Please, again, who are we trying to fool? Don't take my word for it. Here's 2 stories of the Prophet that everyone should know. This is the Prophet's character that you can tell very clearly from this story. Once, the Prophet was praying Jama'at at the front and people were following him. And midway through the prayer, he hears a child crying. So, people realise that he picks up the pace a bit during the prayer and he finishes very quickly. Afterwards, people come up to him and say, Ya Rasoolallah, why did you rush the prayer? You were praying at a certain pace and then all of a sudden you picked up the pace. What was wrong? Has something happened? The Prophet turns to them and says, didn't you hear the child crying? The baby? They said, yeah, we heard the baby crying. And the Prophet said, it's not right that when a human being is in distress, that we take our time and delay matters. You see, this baby who'd been put to one side while the mother was praying behind the Prophet, may have wanted milk, may have missed his mother, may have felt scared, may have needed his nappy changing. We don't know. Any of these things. The baby starts to cry for some reason. Now, it's not an ill baby just to cry for the sake of crying. It obviously needs something that it's crying. Now, for me as a prophet, to be leading the prayer, knowing that the mother is stood behind me, going at my pace, it would mean that I am putting this child at distress. That I am a hindrance on the mother returning to the child and seeing to its needs. So I picked up the pace so the mother can return to the child and see what the child wants. This is Rasoolallah. This is the character of the Prophet. Now you're telling me that he then wanted to keep 120,000 people in the desert, in the burning hot sun, so that he can tell everybody for 3 days that, oh everyone, whoever's my friend, Ali's his friend. Finished, now let's all go home. Another story. Once a man was in his shop and he was selling goods. Obviously, as you do in a shop, you bartering with people and so on. And all of a sudden he hears Bilal mount the minaret to stand up on a high place and starts to call out the adhan for prayer. Now normally when you hear the adhan, you pack up everything, you go to the mosque to reach there in time for the prayer. So the man sends off his customer and he quickly closes up the shop, does his wudu and rushes off to the mosque. As he's getting ready to take his shoes off, he sees people are leaving. You think that's a bit odd. What's going on? Maybe prayer was cancelled today. Maybe the Prophet's ill, something like this. He rushes inside to see what's going on. He sees the Prophet at the front. He goes to him and he asks him, Ya Rasoolallah, what happened to the prayer? Where's everyone going? Rasoolallah said, the prayer is finished. You missed the prayer. He said, but I just was getting wudu. I heard the adhan. I went to get wudu and I came. How could you finish the prayer so quickly? Rasoolallah said, take a look around. What do you see? The man said, people. Rasulullah said, of course. What kind of people? The man looks around and he says, well, there's, young people, old people, some disabled people, people with children, so on and so forth. Rasulullah says, correct. Now you want me to delay the prayer so you can reach in time and for me to keep all these people waiting for you? I have old people with me praying. I have ill people with me praying. I have disabled people with me praying. I have mothers who have children with me praying. How can I wait for you to come and join us and keep all these people waiting? Now this is the prayer. This is salat. This is a pillar of Islam. This is probably the most important action that you can say Islam has. The salat. 5 times a day without fail. 5 times a day without fail. For the rest of your life. And the Prophet says to him that, I can't wait for you. I'm sorry. I have people waiting behind me. Now I have a question. In Ghadir, coming back with 120,000 people, were there not old people? Were there not women with children? Were there not disabled people? Were there not people who had to get back to their business and lives? Of course. So why would the Prophet keep them waiting 3 days to announce a simple thing like, oh, whoever's my friend, Ali's his friend as well. Thank you. Come on. Who are we trying to fool? Now this is directly after something of an event of Hajj. Hajj isn't a holiday where you go and sunbathe and swim in the sea. Hajj has got a'mal, Hajj is, it's stressful, it's spiritually draining in a way that you go there and you've got to pray and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. It's not a small feat. It's very important that when you go there you do everything properly to the best of your ability. You're telling me that people won't come back drained, people won't feel tired from from having put in 100% for the last however many days? Yet then the Prophet says to them, everyone take camp here, we're not going to go home yet. We want to wait for about 3 days, and so I can stand up and tell you that, by the way, again, whoever's my friend, whoever I am his friend and Ali is his friend. Man kuntu mawla fahada Ali wa mawla. You see, some Shia, unfortunately, don't even quote the fahada. They just say, Man kuntu mawla fa Ali wa mawla. Which we'll come to, inshallah, in a future speech, to see that this fahada was there for a reason. Ma yantiqu anil hawa. The Prophet doesn't speak out of desire. He doesn't put words in for his own sake. He puts every word there for a reason, because he's been told to say this word, and that word, and that word. Now, for those of you who don't know, I myself never knew until I researched and saw that the khutbah of Ghadir, the speech that the Prophet gave in Ghadir, was not 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. The speech that he gave in Ghadir was 1 hour, 10 minutes long. 1 hour, 10 minutes long. Now you tell me, it doesn't take a group of scientists sat around a table with supercomputers to work out that it takes a lot longer than 1 hour and 10, like a lot more has to be said than just Man kuntu mawla fa'ali wa mawla. That's done in about 3-4 seconds. What happened to the rest of the speech? What happened to the other 1 hour, 9 minutes? What was said? See, the Sunni like to pull wool over our eyes and their own followers' eyes and say that, this word mawla doesn't really mean anything, doesn't mean authority, doesn't mean, successor, doesn't mean anything. All it means is friend. That's all. Okay, we'll give it to you. We'll give it to you on a plate. We're so kind, us Shia, that we'll give it to you on a plate and we'll say, okay, fine, this one line you can have. Man kuntu mawla fahada Ali wa mawla, take it. What about the rest? What are you going to do about the 1 hour, 9 minutes of speech? How are you going to explain that? How are you going to cover this one now, huh? The reason why I get so heated about this is because there is so much to be said about Ghadir. So much to be said about Ghadir that it's not even funny. What are we doing? Why are we taking it so lightly? I'm questioning me. Why didn't you read about the khutbah of Ghadir sooner? Why didn't you learn about the events of Ghadir sooner? Why didn't you defend Ghadir with your life sooner? What excuse do you have? You see, if the events of Ghadir didn't take place, if what happened at Ghadir was defended properly, correctly, if it was conveyed the way the Prophet told the people to convey it, he said, convey, for those of you present, convey it to those of you who are not present. And for those of you who are alive, convey it to those who are not yet born. In other words, when you have a child, tell your child about the events of Ghadir. That's how important it is. Now, once a Sunni man was stood in Karbala during Muharram, and he was seeing the procession, people walking past, beating their chests as we do in Muharram, their heads, crying, lamenting, chains, and so on and so forth. And he turned to this, a person next to him. He saw that the person is wearing an ammama, sheikh, and he says to him, it just so happened this was Allama Amini. He turned to him and he says, what are these people doing? What is this fuss all about? Why are they going to extremes about something? What is this fuss? What are they trying to do by this? Why are they being extremists? Allama Amini turns to him. Obviously he never knew it was Allama Amini. He turns to him and he says, if the Shia, he says, to explain why are they going to extremes, why are they making a big deal out of something, why are they making a scene out of something. He says, if we acted the way that we do for Muharram, for Karbala, for Ashura, if we acted this way over Ghadir, that we made a big deal out of it, we made scene out of it, we beat ourselves, or we celebrated it the way that it was supposed to be celebrated, that we defended it with our lives and our blood. If we Shia did that for Ghadir, then Ghadir would not have been so misunderstood that your alims can come and write whatever they like and put things out of context and say that Mawla means friend. They would have been too scared to do such a thing, because they would have seen that Shias are not people to be messed around with. Don't mess around with our faith. We defend it with our blood. And then he says, he doesn't just stop there, he then says, and if we were to act like we did in Ghadir over Karbala and Ashura, in other words, take it lightly, it doesn't matter, the Prophet came and said some stuff. We don't need to tell everyone, we don't need to make a big scene out of it. If we acted the way that we did in Ghadir for Karbala, then your ulama would have come and written that Hussein went on a journey, alayhi salam, and he forgot to pack a blanket, so he ended up shivering and dying in the desert. Hussein went on a journey, and he didn't pack enough food, so he died of hunger. This is what they would have done. They would have played with the hadith, with the narrations, with history, as they have played with Ghadir. So this is why we make a big scene out of things. This just goes to show that it's my fault that Bibi Zahra salam alayha miscarried her child. It's my fault that they had the guts to beat her. It's my fault that they tied rope around Ali alayhi salam's neck and dragged him through the streets like a sheep. Astaghfirullah. It's my fault that all the events of Karbala took place and that our Master Hussein was martyred along with his companions. It's my fault because I did not take care of Ghadir the way that the Prophet told me to take care of it. It's my fault that the Sunnis and other people have come and infiltrated their lies and propaganda to their people about Ghadir, that it was nothing. One of the great historians, Sunni historians, he narrates everything very, very clearly. But when it comes to the khutbah of Ghadir, he comes and says that the Prophet spoke for 1 hour, 10 minutes, wa kada, wa kada, wa kada. And so, and so, and so, and so. He doesn't even mention what the Prophet said. He doesn't mention that, for instance, the big event that took place, 3 days long. Call everyone back, call everyone forward. Listen to this 1 hour, 10 minutes long speech, and then pay allegiance. Now, this is enough for one session for us just to realize, this is almost like an introduction, for us to realize that the events of Ghadir are something far more important than we have understood. Far more important than the Sunni and unfortunately the Shia ulama have understood. Inshallah, we will dive into this. You see, this man kuntu mawla fa aliyun mawla, fa hada aliyun mawla, is just a drop in the ocean of Ghadir. Inshallah, we will come to see exactly what took place and what was said and what our duty as Muslims is towards our Prophet. Forget sects, Sunni, Shia, put sects aside. If you're a Muslim, you believe in the Prophet, and if you believe in the Prophet, then you listen and you act on his words. That's the truth of it. Otherwise, pack your bag and go home. Because you're not really a Muslim yet. Inshallah, may Allah and Imam Ali alayhi salam give us a tawfiq to do some justice to the events of Ghadir, so we may further understand it and complete our duties towards our Mawla, Imam Ali alayhi salam. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Ahl Bayt at-Tayyibin at-Tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. On the sands of Karbala, he leaves Imam Hussein's body bare, without a kafan, without ghusl, without even burying the body. And don't doubt when I say that people are ill enough to come and write such big lies and pull wool over our eyes. What are you going to do about the 12 times that he called Imam alayhi salam in his khutbah, in the speech of Ghadir? He called him Imam, leader. I wish it meant friend. Because to a friend, you don't take firewood and surround their house and set it alight. Wasi, Wali, Mawla, Khalifa, Akhi, come and tell me I'm wrong. Come and tell me that the Prophet made a mistake in announcing these words for Ali ibn Abi Talib.